It says in Ecclesiastes that the spirit goes back to the Father, but the spirit and soul, if not connected in a sense of entering into that relationship that Jesus has already accomplished, then the soul has not entered through Jesus. But the spirit was always come from God. The spirit came into the body to form the soul, if you like. The soul formed after the spirit entered into the cells, and the soul formed. But the spirit already existed and just goes back to where it was before. The spirit, for me, I don't believe in an unredeemed spirit. I believe the spirit has always been from God, just was not connected to our identity, and therefore was competing, because it talks about the tension between the soul and spirit, and the sort of almost the conflict between soul and spirit, where the spirit looks to bring us into the relationship with our identity and God, and the soul's resistant in operating in humanism and tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So there, even when someone first identifies that they're alive to God, it doesn't automatically mean their soul gives up, does it? Having control over their lives. So I do believe Ecclesiastes talks about the spirit going back to the Father, and that's been my experience of seeing it. And then the soul goes on to the fire of God's presence for refining and purification. Now, if it gets stuck here, it's because of trauma. I think trauma traps potentially souls to an event or a place. And that could be to a family event, and therefore it can therefore be attached to family lines as a familial spirit, which can attach itself to certain families. So I've sort of, when someone dies and they have a familial spirit, where does that familial spirit go? Well, it just becomes someone who attaches itself to another part of the family. And some people's deliverance is from familial spirits, which are demons, which were in a family member that then afflicted another family member because of some family right to do it. So I do accept that some deliverance is that. Probably most of it might be that, but that doesn't mean all of it can be that. And Arthur Burke, who operates empirically with evidence, said very clearly that you probably weren't going to find this in the Bible, and it probably isn't a biblical thing. Well, neither is 99% of the things we do every day in the Bible. But it doesn't mean we dismiss it as being true. It's like computers are true, they're not in the Bible. It's like, so why would we think everything is in the Bible? It isn't. So the fact that there may be, Jesus did talk about demons or unclean spirits, which I would say an unclean spirit is actually a lingering human soul. He described it in those terms. And because unclean was someone who wasn't in the covenant. Unclean wasn't just like a sinner in one sense. Obviously, sin was part of it, but it was an excommunication, or being outside of the covenant was really, because Gentiles were unclean. That was the view. Gentiles were, whatever they called them, goyim or whatever, were unclean. They were unclean people. They weren't people. So unclean as a term may just refer to that. So Jesus may have referred to different classes of spirit souls, demons, whatever they are. Because I don't believe demons are spirits. I mean, they are spiritual identities, but they're a soul. They're the souls that were on earth, and they wander around earth looking to afflict somebody or outwork their personality. And I believe they are those who were not human, who died in the flood, who were some way Nephilim spirited people, or mixture, didn't have a human spirit, and therefore had a soul. And I think they were manufactured in Hebrew, talks about it in Genesis 6, through angels mixing some sort of genetic DNA thing to create hybrids. My view was that everything that Jesus could created would be restored. And that includes all fallen angels that he created by him, through him, for him. In Colossians, it talks about that. So for me, I have no doubt that any being that Jesus created for a purpose, for relationship, will be restored, including Lucifer. but it's a choice. But I do believe eventually you'll make that choice. But I don't know how long that will take, but I do believe all that he created will be restored. But he didn't create Nephilim.
Right.
Angels and man did in collusion. So what the Father, and I thought, to me, it would be, well, maybe they'll just cease to exist or be annihilated or whatever, because God didn't create them. They didn't have a human spirit. Therefore, they don't have the spirit soul coming together in relationship. But as I then matured in sort of relationship with Father, and he could talk to me about some stuff which originally he wasn't talking to me about, because I did ask him the question, he just didn't give me an answer. Eventually he did talk to me and said, well, when it came about, actually, when he first engaged me about creating something, not an inanimate thing, but in creating a guardian for portals out in the solar system which didn't have enough guardians. And I sort of said to him, can I do that? And he said, well, you choose to create other things. Why do you think, made in my image, you wouldn't be able to create a being for a purpose? Like I've created beings for purposes. So I thought, oh, okay. And I was asked by guardians to do this, and I went and checked it out with the Father, and he said, well, yeah, of course you can do it. I said, well, why do I need to do it? And I was a bit, so like, surely you created enough of them. did they, a load of them fall then? He said, no, none of them fell. But we left a lot for man to complete as they matured in our image. So there's stuff left for us to do. And that is one of it. And so I was all in this at the time. And so I was thinking about the responsibility of that which I created. Am I responsible for that guardian? What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to look after it? What am I supposed to, I mean, I was like, it's a little bit like, this is a bit, which probably, why you didn't talk to me about it earlier, because I would have probably even more freaked out, but so I think, so it's like, you created it because you were asked to create it for a purpose, and the other guardians will make sure that it's cared for. That, oh, praise God, I don't have to look after them. Right. A bit beyond my sort of desire, really, at least, if not capacity. But then the Father then talked about sort of, as we mature, we will also make decisions based on judgment, because it talks about us judging angels. Now, obviously, people think about that judgment in the negative sense, but I believe it's a positive sense. So I would judge fallen angels as restorable, and I judge those non-fallen angels for what they've done, and they've blessed me. So I thank them, and I'm appreciative of the things they've done in my life and around my life. So I honor them for what they've done to bless me. So that's a form of judgment. So I think people just get this so negative thing about judgment. It's always punishment or whatever. No, it's about blessing. Hi, everyone. We're starting a Patreon page, patreon.com/freedomarc. And we would like to invite you to partner with us in taking the message of God's unconditional love, limitless grace, triumphant mercy to a bigger global audience.